So Tom Lee, the guy who called a lot of things right over the past 18 months, the guy who has become the household name by being the biggest bull on Wall Street, just came out with an urgent warning for investors. You definitely want to hear this. Now, as always, in every one of my videos, the bottom line comes first. I'm not going to hold you hostage, so you get the bottom line first. You can leave if you're in a hurry, and if you want to stay for the analysis, go right ahead. I don't mind either way because I value your time. Don't click nothing, don't smash nothing, and definitely don't buy nothing.
Well, it's been a rough week. I mean, this September first 4 days were down 4%. It's actually one of the fifth worst September since 1928, so it's pretty bad. I don't think there's actually a lot of fundamental arguments for why stocks are down this much, but I think we've pulled forward seasonality. This September to November period last year was really tough. Historically, it's tough, and I wonder if markets are going risk off early.
So you believe in the soft landing story. You said there's no fundamental reason for this. This is a debate over soft landing versus something worse. Market seems to be tilting towards something worse. You say no.
Yeah, the reason I don't think it's something worse, and we don't know, is that the jobs added was better than July. Remember, July was the hard landing fears because it was such a weak number. And in fact, the number of industries adding jobs jumped to 53%. That's the best in 6 months. And the unemployment rate fell. So I think we're at a point where the Fed could engineer a soft landing. And that's why 2 weeks from now, it's going to be important.
50, 25, does it matter to you?
I think it's going to be how the market interprets either number, because there can be such thing as a dovish 50 or a hawkish 50 or a panicked 50, even a hawkish 25. So I think the reality is the Fed is on a cutting cycle. That's really a good catalyst for rotation. Interest rates are going to fall, and it's going to help industries like housing, autos, credit cards come out of this recession. So I think it's good news when they start cutting.
Okay. What's happening in tech? We said that the NASDAQ's down more than 5% this week. We're having the worst week in about 18 months, and the tech sector itself is off more than 7 on the week. What's going on with that trade?
Tech, I think, revealed its hand last week because NVIDIA had a good number, but it fell. So when stocks fall on good news, it's either a crowded trade or something bad could be coming. And then, of course, they led the downside this week. I think it is part of this pull forward the seasonality because people want to de-risk, and tech is a big holding. In NVIDIA's last 10 years of history, there have been 30% drawdowns, almost 8 times of similar magnitude. Its PE, NVIDIA's forward PE, was actually higher at the bottom of those drawdowns. Right now, NVIDIA's forward PE is in the mid-20s. So to me, this looks like a normal profit taking. Maybe it takes NVIDIA down to the 90s, but I think 2 years from now, that's really going to be a give. The risk of a 7 to 10% drawdown between now and November, we're almost down 5% now. I think next week we could be within that point of where we pulled forward that entire correction into the month of September. So I think we're close to the point where, I wouldn't be a seller here, and I think the lower range of the S&P's 5,400, 5,350, we're almost there now.
So let's go straight to the point. Tom Lee just came out on CNBC and on his private research website, basically talking about the next 8 weeks and the rest of the year. People are going to make a lot of mistakes over the next 2 months because the next 2 months are going to be very challenging. They're going to be very tough, very volatile, and a lot of retail investors are going to sell out because of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because of panic, because of emotions, and they will miss out on what will be a greater high by the end of the year. 2024 is heading into new highs. It will finish very, very strong, even though the next couple of weeks, the next 8 weeks are going to seem very, very tough. So he's basically saying, look, I'm warning you, don't be gaslit. Don't be upset about the next 8 weeks thinking this is the end of the world, because this is what you're going to hear in mainstream media. This is what you're going to hear on social media. People running for the hills like headless chickens. But pay no attention to this. Stay the course, because the end of the year is actually going to be strong, but it's going to be very hard to see it once you're in the spin cycle of the media machine telling you this is the end of the world. So Tom Lee is saying one simple thing. He's saying, look, the next couple of weeks, basically September through November, is going to be tough, not because of fundamentally problematic issues with the economy and the stock market, but because of seasonality. It's the weaker parts of the year, every year. There's a lot of uncertainty because of election. There's a lot of fear in the market right now. So the next couple of weeks are going to be hard and tough, not because something is broken, but because of psychology and all this short-term stuff. Now, he's also saying that the job market is not as bad as people initially thought because unemployment numbers actually fell, which is true, but we'll talk about that in a second. I have a little caveat there. He's also saying, look, what's important here to note is we already know that the Federal Reserve will cut rates for September, but the important part will be the language. The lingo is going to be most critical. The nuance, the terminology, because this is what it's all about. He's saying, look, the Fed is going to cut. Whether they cut 25 or cut 50, that doesn't really matter. What matters is what kind of a mindset, explanation, and logic they provide along with that cut. Because they might scare the market or they might put the market at ease. Whatever they choose to use as language, as terminology, semantics, that's going to determine a lot of the short-term stuff, and it might get volatile for a while before the market figures out what exactly is going on. Now, he's also talking about NVIDIA, saying, look, NVIDIA may have been a crowded trade. I mean, everybody piled into NVIDIA. We had good earnings, great numbers, and the stock fell. That's usually a sign of a crowded trade. But the fact that it's a crowded trade doesn't mean it's a bad long-term investment. He's basically saying, look, it might drop even further. Who knows? We might see NVIDIA at 90. But in a few years, when NVIDIA continues to dominate the AI infrastructure market, which it will for at least a few more years, that 90 is going to seem like a present, like a gift, which is undoubtable. NVIDIA has went through a lot of these cycles where it dropped 20, 30%. He's right. But it has always gone up because of its dominance in the market. What he's saying is that for long-term investors, 90 is cheap for NVIDIA. But if you don't have the patience and you want to play this trading mentality game, I don't know what to say. It's going to be complicated in a crowded trade like NVIDIA. Now, he also actually did something that a lot of people are afraid to do, which is call bottom. He said, look, the market is going to bottom at around 5,300. And that's actually very brave of him to say because who knows? I mean, I can't think of anybody who would say this because it's such a challenging thing to do to predict the bottom on the short term. Now, look, whether Tom Lee is right or wrong, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what we're looking at here is weakness. Whether this weakness leads to more weakness or it leads to a bounce, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you have the right strategy, right? If we're looking at the setup and we're saying, look, if Tom Lee is right and we're going to have a bounce back, well, then the next 8 weeks, it's your time to accumulate stocks and buy the dip, DCA. But if he's wrong and the stock market actually bounces up way quicker than he thinks, well, you slow back down. Simple as that. My message has never changed and it will never change. It's that simple. See you in the next one. Peace.
Класс, блядь! Заебал! Сука вонючая, блядь!